Sure.
You just stepped out.
We just stepped out. Oh. Okay, just follow the button.
He's a Western grad.
If you recall at our meeting in October, we had John Phillips here from former City of Rock Island administrator, and John works with a group of county and municipal folks that help cities and counties as they contemplate hiring an administrator. And it was through John Phillips that I got Jeff's name, and then I came to find out that Jeff Boston is has Mercer County roots and still has family here, and was a Westmer graduate. And Jeff is currently has no interest in becoming our county administrator. He's the city administrator for Princeton. But Jeff and I have had a few conversations, and Jeff has agreed to help us at this point on a pro bono type way, and I told him that wouldn't be necessary, but yet he felt very compelled because of our situation and his roots that he really wants to see us do this right, and so at this point, let's welcome Jeff. To give him a hand.
Some of those know me for years might think I'm not worthy of that hand, but as Ted mentioned, you know, I did grow up in New Boston. I spent the early years of my adult life in Aledo. I married a lady from Eliza, and so our roots have been here all along. Family is still here. Some of you I know, obviously, and you know me. So I'll just tell you a couple minutes about my professional background, then we can get into this discussion about the county administrator position. I started with the City of Aledo as a deputy city clerk, and then I evolved to the CFO position at Mercer County Hospital at the time, and then I moved away and worked for a sanitary district for 4 years in Champaign. While I was there, I did my master's program in public administration, and then I got into direct city management. I managed a town in southeast Kansas called Columbus for 3 years, and then a lot of you may have known that I went to Leroy, Illinois, which is down 74 between Bloomington and Champaign, and I was there about 11 years, and then 2 years in Fairfield, Iowa, and now about 3 years in Princeton. So that's my history, about 30 years of local government experience, that background. I have lunch with John, with our organization. They have a luncheon every month. It's either in the Quad Cities or Bloomington, both of which are quite a ways from me, so I usually just go occasionally. But I went last month because it was in Geneseo, and John and I were talking about your possible interest in the county administrator position, and that's where I said, if you as a group feel that I can be of value to you, I would love to be able to help you with that. It's really important that you understand, and I'm glad that Ted mentioned, I'm not interested in this position. It's not anything negative by any means, but I want to help you get the professional person that you want if that's what you want to do. So I wanted that to be on the record right off the bat that I'm not looking for this for any self-serving reason, and I'm certainly not looking for pay for this. I just would like to help you figure out what it is you want to do. If you know what you want to do, help you make that happen, and that's, I think, where our conversation can go now. Are there any questions of me about my background or anything to begin with? I mean, I don't want to waste your time here. I want to get into the nuts and bolts of this. So then we'll jump into the county administrator thing. Some of this, I'm not sure what John had already told you, so I'll try to be brief and just keep moving forward, and you can stop me anytime if you have questions or concerns. In order to get a county administrator, you just simply have to administer or implement an ordinance, adopt an ordinance, and he probably told you that. I brought a couple examples. They're in the packet that I passed out before the meeting. The cover has a gray sheet, and then right inside there's a couple samples. Basically, in a nutshell, a county and/or city administrator or manager ordinance is more or less a job description of what you want the position to do, and of course authorizes you as a board, as an entity, to go ahead and go about hiring that position. So what I would suggest is that you review those two ordinances, and maybe you have some other examples as well. Pick and choose what you like, and then if we're moving forward with this, if you provide that data to me, I'll make a final product for you that you can then look at as a group and then adopt when you're comfortable doing that. And again, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about this assuming that you're moving forward. Obviously, if you're not moving forward, then that would become irrelevant. So anyway, that's really the easiest part of this process, and it just needs to script really literally how you see this position unfolding for you. And the two examples in there are both county specific. One I believe is Peoria County, and the other is Lake County, I think, in the Chicago area. But if you need more examples or you need more input, I can get that for you. But that's really what it comes down to. What do you expect this position to do for you? And get those specifics as they're written in there, and then we'll get you a final ordinance that you can address as a board. Is that comfortable, or everybody okay with that? One of the things we'll establish, I think, as we move forward with this is some level of communication on how you want to handle that. If you want to communicate through your board chair or through your finance committee chair or however you want to do that, and then, or maybe through your county clerk and then to me, I don't care. If you want to deal directly with me, that's personally fine with me, but I want to make sure I'm respectful of your processes here. I did pass out my card. It has my cell phone number, has my email address on it. I'm reachable 24/7. So if you have questions you want to talk about, feel free to call me. But through the board, I do want to process so that you all know what's happening, and then I'm communicating with you as a group so that you're all hearing the same thing. Is that all? Are we all good so far on all that? Okay, so should we get into the process of talking about the actual hiring of this position a little bit? One of the things I'm going to need to know at some point is the salary and benefit package that you're going to be offering. The salary is probably easy enough for you to determine, but the benefit package is something that gets overlooked, and it's one of the areas where I have a little bit of a pet peeve with some of the professional consultants in that they don't evaluate the benefit package, and I probably don't need to tell all of you that you spend an awful lot of money on benefits for your employees over time, and I think we want to make sure we sell what those benefits are to your potential hirees, because that might help ease the burden of the salary so that you can bring the right person to the table and they can see that package that's going to be more important to them. Pension's important to them, things like that are going to be really important. Obviously, anything to do with health insurance is going to be really important. So I want to make sure I have a good understanding as we move forward with this on what those benefits are that the county offers so that we can make that crystal clear to these candidates when you get to a finalist and you're trying to negotiate the terms of a contract. Any questions? Is it okay so far? Mm-hmm. I was just telling Mont, him and I's history goes back a long way, and I won't repeat all that for both our benefits, but I have a reputation in Princeton in that the press always emails me because I talk too fast, so they don't like to interview me over the phone. So if I'm talking too fast, tell me to slow down and I will do that, but otherwise, we'll keep her moving. So in terms of, I think the next step that needs to happen from a board's perspective is for you to identify the needs. Ted and I talked about this a little bit on the phone. Even though a county administrator or a city administrator brings a certain set of skills to the table, they all bring strengths and weaknesses. I have an undergraduate degree in accounting, I have a pretty strong budget and finance background, and I have a pretty strong economic development background. Some of the other stuff I had to learn as I go. I'm not naturally, some of you would know this, a public works type of a guy, a highway guy. I'm not a mechanical guy. So I had to learn that as I go. You have to decide as a board what's more important so that we're focusing on the skill sets that you think the county needs first and foremost to help you move forward. So budget and finance is the key. That's what our focus will be. That's what I'm going to do, if you're okay with this, is I'll provide a questionnaire, not tonight because I want to talk to you first, but then I'll get a questionnaire in your hands that you can each fill out. Then I can tally it, and we'll have a meeting at some point sooner than later, and this again would be your schedule. And we'll summarize what you think the priorities are. So I'll provide a list of all those options based on what the county does and based on what the expectations of the county administrator would be. And then the key will be as we move forward to not lose focus on, hey, we made this, this, and this our priorities, and that's the kind of candidate we kind of want for this job. So the point is, over a period of time, you know, they might get really good at some of this. Depending on what you offer for a salary, you might bring a lot of that experience to the table, but you might not. So I want to make sure you understand, you may not be able to get the laundry list. It's kind of like when you buy the house. There are 10 things that are really important to you. If you get 7 of them, you're happy. It might be that kind of a situation to where you get the 7 key things, and the other things they'll have to learn as they go. All right? I'm down my list far enough, I have to put on my glasses. The next thing I think I provided is a... And we'll kind of talk about the timeline as we move forward here, is an actual posting of a job. Should be right behind in the paperwork I provided. I crafted one that's fairly generic, but is specific to your county. And so you should review that, and we need to get some input back from you on what that job posting should look like. And as we develop a timeline, that will speak to what the job posting, when the job posting should be done and for what time cycle it should be done for. So this one, as an example, says you would accept applications to the end of January. Based on what I typically see, that would be a normal timeline. If you want to be more aggressive than that, that's okay, but we would want to get that going quickly. Yes, sir.
We can't put out an announcement until we have an ordinance, because we can't pass an ordinance tonight.
Right.
So we don't have a meeting until next month.
Right. So that's why I'm saying we'll do this. I'm just giving you examples of how that would work. So assume a 6-week, give or take, time frame for collecting applications is what I'm trying to say by that. Maybe I should have been clear about that. And then as you're ready to move forward, when you get to that point, we'll get the ads going, we'll give a deadline 6 weeks or so later, and then we'll collect the applications so that we can move forward with that process. The position that I'm in, I'm just going to describe myself as a consultant here, would work then at that point is the resumes would all come to a point here. Again, maybe the county clerk would be logical, whatever you guys decide. And then I would like whomever that point is to forward everything to me. And then I'll go through every resume, I'll score all these resumes based on this information that you'll have provided to me, and then I'll bring a report back to you along with some recommendations of some semi-finalists, and we'll keep moving. But it's really important for you to understand, I'm not hiring this person, I'm not telling you who to hire. I'm giving you the criteria based on the criteria you've given me, and then we're going to see if after we put all these things together, that doesn't look like what you had in mind. And there's always exceptions. So I'll make sure that you can all see, every applicant, if there's somebody that's an exception, but you like their application and you want to include them, this is your call, it's going to be your person. So it's really, really important you understand, I want to help you get from now to that person being hired. Who you choose to pick is going to be what this board really wants. So with that said, on the job posting, that's the time cycle for all of that. I should easily be able to, if I get some input back from you, get an ordinance to you for your next meeting, if that's what you would like. Does that, I don't know how you want to handle this. Do you want to take votes on all this? You want to do a consensus on all this? You want to wait till the end?
Well, we all have copies of those 2 examples. We'll look through them
And then as far as feedback, do you want to just give me direct feedback individually? Do you want to do that through?
I think we should do it through the finance.
Through Ted and his group?
Through Ted, yeah.
Okay. And then you'll communicate with me, and then I'll put something together. I'll get it back to you.
That Jeff, or
We haven't made committee assignments yet.
Brian, that's what you want, right? If
Yeah,
I'm chair
yeah.
of
Well,
the
that's what I
committee.
think. Since you on the finance meeting, with that, I think that would probably be best to communicate with them already.
So then I guess our steps would be for our next meeting, for our regular meeting in January, is to have an ordinance, basically an administrative posting thing that we can all.
Right, to post it.
The one thing is, when would we do the questionnaire? Would we do the questionnaire now, Jeff, so we can start to get information?
I think so. I can get the questionnaire to you next week. So I'll get that in your hands.
Yeah,
All
go
the
ahead,
county.
Vinnie.
Well, why don't you get it to Phyllis, because Phyllis can get it to the county board members
Okay,
much
sure.
quicker than I can.
All right.
Because I think everybody's input's important here.
Yeah, this questionnaire won't be
Send it right
long.
back to Phyllis and she can forward.
I'll try to make it as user-friendly as possible to fill out. It's going to be 3 or 4 pages of, I think, the kind of information you'd expect to read, and then you can think about it, fill in the blanks, and get them back to her, and then we'll be able to put together a summary of what that looks like. And then I'll provide the summary back to whomever, and then you can review that, so whenever our next meeting is, we can be 2 or 3 steps ahead of where we are right now.
Brian, I'm wondering if we should have a motion to at least begin this process, since it is on the agenda. When I say begin the process, do the questionnaire, he begins working with Phyllis and I, and we start to put this thing with some structure. And then when we come to the meeting in January, we already have all
Right,
this
it would be all
done.
set up.
I mean, I think that, what I'd like to see from the chair tonight is that do we have the majority to move forward with this process?
Yeah, I would, if we make a motion and take a vote.
I make a motion that
I'd
we,
like to ask a question first. First of all, how much money do we have in our budget allowed for this position? Is it in our budget?
Well, Ted and I had talked about this in the, what fund did you say would be
It's my understanding that administrators can come out of the liability fund. Is that?
Now, I'm not an authority on county, but generally, that position can come, it's shared, like mine is shared between multiple funds, departments.
Yeah.
And that's typical because they're gonna be doing work in every one of these
To answer your
areas.
question, Mr. Gregg, we can amend the budget as, if
Sure,
the
but I was
votes
just
are there.
curious to find out if we had any money allocated for that.
I don't believe the final,
We didn't have, in this,
No, there was no money passed in the budget for it.
Okay.
so we would have to amend the budget.
Right.
But we're not spending any money right now.
Not right now.
No, we're not. But to put a price on the bottom of this right here, you have to have.
We,
something in.
before we submit a thing out there to
Right. So
solicit
we're talking
things,
within
yes, we
6
would have to
weeks.
come up with
We're
a,
talking within 6 weeks.
yes.
Okay.
So we'd have to, on the next meeting in January,
Right.
make a motion to amend the budget at that time.
Yeah, with the salary that we're going to
Yeah.
offer in benefits, as well as, how we're gonna go forward
Okay.
at that point.
Joe?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we proceed with the filling out the survey and getting back the results.
The questionnaire.
And to begin working on an ordinance, because we're gonna need that as well for the January meeting. So all
I will
the steps,
admit that.
all the steps we need to take in.
To add
order.
that, the ordinance in with your motion?
Yes, I will add that in with the motion.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion then to discuss the amending of the budget in January?
Yes.
Should that be in the same motion then, or make that a separate motion? Let's make it a separate motion.
Isn't that, okay, amending the budget is just a, can we just have that as a action item?
Action item, okay. Well, let's go ahead and then,
On the agenda, just put it on next month's agenda.
yeah, we'll do that. Any discussion? It was seconded, right? Who seconded it?
It hasn't been seconded.
Second motion.
Okay, Larry, second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to get the questionnaire and the ordinance? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any kind of motion passed?
Okay, comfortable moving on?
Yes.
Okay. The next thing I think in the list is, I'm sure you're probably aware that Rock Island County is also in a search right now. And so I copied the brochure because I know if you talked about that, and it's something that we're going to want to put together. It doesn't have to be elaborate, it doesn't have to be fancy or expensive, but we need something to put together about Mercer County so that when we're sending out to our candidates, they can look at, what they're looking for. Some of you have to assume a lot of these people will never have been here. They're going to want to know if they're interested in the job. What does Mercer County have to offer? Not unlike what Rock Island County has done, but it could be much less. So again, if I got some direction from you as to what you thought would be in there, I think I can clean it up a little bit, throw some pictures in there, and make it something that that's 3 or 4 pages that doesn't really, again, spend any money.
We already have
Well, you
most
do.
of that information on our, from our Economic Development Committee. Yep.
Okay, great. So maybe that somebody could provide me with that data, and then we
got
can.
one of the brochures sitting right out there.
All right, I'll get one of those on the way out. Good, now that's easy enough. I want to make sure that you thought about that because that will be important when you move forward. A couple other references I just wanted you to know as the process moves forward. Again, when I tell you this is how I envision it. What you think needs to be different, you can tell me. We'll go through, we'll review the resumes. It varies. I'm going to guess you're going to get anywhere from 30 to 50 resumes. That's the typical if we do a good job advertising, which is one of the other things you will have to spend some money. My guess is about $2,000 on advertising. You will advertise locally probably because I'm guessing you probably have an obligation when you do something to do it locally, even though that may not necessarily be the target market. But a lot of the organizations, the one that John and I are both a member, the Illinois City County Management Association, the International City County Management Association, both have great job postings, and anybody that's in this field would know that. So I'd recommend that. I would also recommend Iowa City Management Association and probably Wisconsin's as well. Missouri doesn't really have a job posting, or I'd probably recommend them. Other than the national one, the rest of them really aren't very expensive. The national one's a little bit more expensive, but it's all, the cost of doing business here. So that's something you should consider as part of your process as you move forward, that we'll need to spend a little bit of money on the advertising campaign itself, if you will, or the job posting. We good on all that? Just so we know, as we get closer then, what I usually do is narrow it to 10, and then narrow it to 5, and then 5 is what you would typically interview. It could be less if you don't feel there's 5 worthy, but a lot of times you interview, and by the time you get through the process, somebody's taken the job, somebody turns it down. So if we have good quality candidates that meet your criteria, I would encourage that you interview 5. And that will take, and this again will be how you guys decide to do it. I don't know if you're going to do that by committee, if you're going to do that by an entire board. It will take an hour and a half probably on each. So we're talking about a full day. If you want to do these night by night, I mean, you can structure it however you want. Just know that that time needs to be dedicated by whomever that team is going to be. Now what I would do in that process is I would coordinate, I would organize, I would make sure those folks are here, I'd make sure you had all the information, the questions, and everything you needed to know about them, and then you'll be interviewing them, and I would just be kind of like your assistant.
Are we expected to pay their travel expenses?
Well, typically with this position you would. You don't have to. Those are things that you have to decide. Now, another thing I would tell you is, it's pretty common, let's say you have somebody from North Carolina to do a phone interview with them, and you don't bring them here unless you're really serious.
Right.
And then at that point, you can have those discussions about the rest of it. If there's mileage here and there, it's probably mostly going to be incidental costs, but those are your dollars, so I don't want to take those lightly. That's up to you.
But if it's going to pay moving expenses?
Moving expenses is something that you would probably negotiate as part of the contract. So when you hire that person, or when you want to offer them the job, you offer them based on a term, they'll respond with whatever, you can go back and forth. That's something that you can consider. It's done a lot of different ways, but there's no obligation for you to do that necessarily. Some people it's really important. The next guy might say, I got my own pickup, I'll do it myself, or gal, and it won't be a big deal. So those are the kind of things as we move forward. I'll start providing you with a lot more information about the negotiation side of it. And there is an employment contract at the end, and I don't know if John had talked to you about an employment contract or if you've talked about that, but there's a sample employment contract that you should go through after we get moving forward. While we're waiting on resumes to come in, it's a good time for you to start getting yourself involved in those types of things, because you'll have more time then while we're waiting, and then you can see what language needs to be enhanced, what are the important things for you as a board to make sure are driven in that employment contract, and then we'll have that ready to go when we get to the interview process.
Jeff is very thorough. Excellent step-by-step, thank you. Under number 10 of your report is also, Mr. Chairman, under number 6, and I'd like to just wade into the operations out of just for a second. Basically, what I would like to see happen is that while we're going through this administrator search, which could really take 3, 4, 5 months, that we also that the board tonight would give Jeff and I the authority to go and talk to. There's a handout, a memorandum.
It should be the last sheet
on firms that make needs analysis or operation audits for counties. And I would like to be able to bring back, hopefully at the January meeting, Jeff and I are going to probably become good friends here, proposals on doing an operations audit for the county. And there will be expense to that. My guess is, in talking with Jeff, you're probably looking at $20,000-25,000, but I think it will be money very well spent, because when the operations audit is done, it'll do benchmarking. It'll do some of the things Ron attempted to do at one point as a county board member. It'll look at other counties, similar size, similar populations, and it'll start benchmarking. And we'll look by department to department to department to see maybe there's departments that need more staffing, maybe there's departments that have too much staffing, maybe there's areas where we need to hire in order to create revenue for the county. So this analysis is just, you know, and I don't want, you know, to be thought that it's just going to cut expenses. The whole idea is to also look at ways that we can raise or increase revenue as well. So it'll be a comprehensive approach, and it'll give the board and our new administrator a blueprint of going forward, a work plan, if you will. So, Joe, you had a question?
Joe, go ahead.
I have no problems with proceeding with contacting firms and getting an offer, but then again, that is something else that will require a budget amendment, and the finance committee has to be prepared to juggle the numbers next month, and then come up with a recommendation to the full board to adopt. And I want to remind everybody, it takes 3/4 to amend the budget.
6 to pass it, but 3/4 to amend it, huh?
That's correct.
Okay, well, we'll work on that.
It's right there in our bylaws.
We'll work on that.
On this list, it's not a complete list, just so that you know, and I'm working on completing that, but I've made contact with most of these, and I'm still waiting on responses from a few. But these are financial consultants. I'm not necessarily recommending one to you, but I would tell you that you could expect them to help you with those solutions. If you hire somebody like that, they should be able to help you, work through those finances.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we proceed with contacting these firms and getting offers, financial offers,
The estimates?
estimates.
Yep. All right. Okay, that's, you have that page too. No, I'll do it. All right, so Joe has made a motion to contact each of these firms for a estimate for the operational audit. Do I have a second?
No,
Go ahead.
we're not saying we're spending any money.
No, we're not.
No,
We're
no,
just
this
gonna
is
contact
to get-
us so that they can give us an estimate
Estimate of what it would
on
cost.
operation.
Just so to clarify for you, if you don't mind, it'll be more than an estimate, it'll actually be a proposal. So they're gonna explain to you what they're going to do and what it's going to cost.
So we'll know how much.
Whether you
money-
have 2 of them or 5 of them, you'll be able to review those and then decide whether it's worth it to you, and if so, which one you like the best.
What'll probably happen is Jeff and I will probably pick what we think are the 2 best and bring those firms in, I think would make sense. And let the board interview those firms and be able to ask questions and get a feel for what the firm would do. And because these things, it's important to have the right personality when you do these things. And you don't want to have the wrong personality when you do these things.
You got a second on that motion?
We don't know. Second, okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to know, or the Bonsack firm do this also? That we've already presently got employed on doing our
We can ask them.
reports?
Jeff, why don't you
Yeah.
ask them? You got a good relationship with them. They may be able to do that, and if they can, I'm sure we can add them to the list here and get a proposal from them.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that company, but I did read about it in your minutes.
Right. Well, you're the finance chairman, then you just will go ahead and.
Well, I'm not yet, so.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Who did you say it was?
It's what's the, Bonsack
and Frono.
and Frono.
Okay.
That's the firm we presently
You know,
have.
Jeff, I think we can ask them for a proposal, but these firms here specialize
Well,
in,
Bike State is not a firm, that is a group planning.
They're a no.
Yeah.
I asked them because I thought maybe they'd be cost effective, and I found out, of course, by asking them that you're not a member of them right now,
No.
which is fine. I'm not saying
Yeah.
you should be, but they don't do that.
They don't do that.
No, and I wasn't certain because I haven't dealt with Bi-State in 25 years. So you can take them off the list. but-
Okay, so all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same time. Motion carried.
Jeff, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions of me?
Well, I think we're gonna have a lot to do. As I said, Phyllis is a great contact if you want to get stuff to the board or out to the board, so we'll both work through.
We'll get established contact with
Sure.
her. Great.
She's tremendous to work with. So, Jeff, thanks. I
All right,
think you
yeah.
did an excellent job explaining things.
All right, we'll move on to number 5, the committee assignments and meetings. That should be in there. Oh, okay, all right, and we wanted to discuss, yeah. Okay. All right, so we have, do you have the reference of when these were held last time? I know that.
This is what they are. This is what they have been.
Okay.
I had no idea what they were changing.
Okay.
But-
So, right now, we have the county board Tuesday each month at 7, the first Tuesday of each month at 7. Is there any questions or about moving or keeping this meeting the same?
Well, I actually was interested just so you could see the budget a little more developed from the month before, based as that was the first week. That was the only thought of it. But once again, it's just a
Any
thought.
other-
You see what I mean, Jeff? So more of your bills were in.
All the
Bills
finance
bills
ahead.
are all in
Well,
by then,
oh, everything's still
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
That
we moved up all the
sheet.
other meetings.
so that
Turn
they
the
could
claims
be
in.
done.
Okay, so when you see that first meeting and first week of the month, everything's in from the month before.
Okay.
Maybe some of the revenue, you know,
You
but
see
it
what my
should be.
concern is.
It should
Most
be
times.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understand
But we
that.
restructured the other
That's just for that one.
committees, so we have it also.
That was my only question. I didn't realize you could get down with bills.
Finance will still be, you want to still have the finance prior to the county board then? Okay.
I think it's convenient, it's worked out, I don't think we've ran into any issues that.
And let's go down to property purchase as needed. Law enforcement, the second Wednesday before the board meeting at 5 p.m. Joe, you have any questions or issues with that?
No.
Okay. Negotiations, personnel grievance, that's as needed. Zoning Board of Appeals, third Thursday each month, 7 p.m. Veterans Assistance, this Lori, as needed. And finance, generally, we said that already. The economic development be the third Thursday at 6 p.m. Transportation, 6 p.m. Highway Department, second Wednesday before the board meeting. Assessments, mark this as needed. Animal control, that would be the second Tuesday before the board meeting at 5:30, Fred. And then insurance as needed, Ted. Public health, the third Tuesday, 7:30 at the Public Health Department for Lori. Alternative energy as needed, and then Project Now, the fourth Friday of each month, 12:30 p.m. at the Rock Island Public Library. Any questions or issues on those? Joe?
I have a question. Can we just do away with the Alternative Energy Committee?
There, I was on that for the past years, and we never had a meeting.
Well, then, is
I
that a
don't-
yes?
I don't think there's a need for it at this point, so yeah, let's go ahead and eliminate that.
That was developed when we had the prospect of
Right.
getting wind turbines.
I'm aware of that, but we don't have that prospect.
I'd like to withdraw my name from the animal control. Is it possible to do that?
What was that, Laura? I'm sorry.
I'd like to withdraw my name from the animal control.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Thought about it, I guess, too much.
So are we gonna vote on the?
Yeah, we'll just go ahead.
Well,
Committee?
we've got to have somebody else on the animal control now.
We have to.
Yeah, it's a three-member committee.
What's that?
I will volunteer for that.
You got one for every district.
Joe.
That's how it's looking set up.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Joe will volunteer for animal control.
Brian, I have
Okay, go ahead.
I don't have a problem to be on negotiation personnel, but I think the chairman of the board should be the chairman of that committee, because that's very important when you get in negotiations. They don't want to talk to.
Okay, I
somebody
can,
else
yeah,
that.
that's
You
fine.
understand what I'm saying, but
And you still want to be on there since you.
yeah, I'm glad to serve on that committee, but I think the chairman of the board should be the chairman of that committee.
Okay, so we can do that.
Well, that's a three-person committee, who are you taking off?
I don't know if Donnie would be, he probably wouldn't bother him to be off that.
Okay, we can remove Don and just move So it'll be me as chairman, Joe, and then you, Joe.
Yeah,
All right, and then.
Chairman would be you.
right.
I'm sorry?
Chairman would be you.
Right.
Okay.
And then alternative energy, we're gonna do that. University of Illinois Extension. Who was in that?
Larry Stone.
Larry Stone was? I can do that. What's that? Okay, okay, thank you. And then, Project Now, that's the one that is,
That's in the Quad Cities, the
Yeah.
Wing Pub, or the Rock Island Public. I've done that in the past, but if somebody's in the Quad City area, it'd be a lot more handier for them to do that. But I would do it if nobody else wanted to.
Is that a committee we have to be on?
They have a representation in our county very strong when we need to have somebody on the
I
committee.
think you could good on that, Joe.
I don't have a problem with doing it again, but I just didn't know if somebody else was in the Quad Cities, so because it's drive time up there and back, so.
Ted, you wanna go ahead and do that if you have a problem?
Which one is it?
The Project Now, it's in Rock Island.
Oh, yeah, since I'm in Rock Island, sure. Yeah, I'll save your winter tear in your truck, yeah.
All right, make a motion to approve the,
We need one more person for animal control.
Oh,
Did you put?
Joe.
Okay, fine. I will get 3 copies of that.
all right, make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, go ahead,
Any
discussion.
discussion?
What's that?
Any discussion?
No, is there any discussion? No, okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, same time, motion carried. All right. Moving on then to number 7, the hiring freeze. Do we have a copy of the hiring freeze from the past? Was there an actual
Resolution.
If I can get it up, I could.
Didn't we do that first winter, Ted?
It was pretty early in.
Yeah, it was like January, or February or March of 13, I believe it was. We have to look back in the minutes.
Yeah. That seems to be sounding right.
Joe, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that our new sheriff be allowed to hire a chief deputy from his existing deputies and replace the 2 empty slots to bring his deputy up to the staffing levels of last month.
So that was motion to replace the chief deputy with an existing deputy
Correct.
and to move up.
And to hire 2 additional deputies to bring his staffing up to the levels of last month. That would all this, okay, that's my motion. Discussion would be,
Yeah.
this is already in the budget. These people will be starting at the lower level, so it actually would come in under the existing budget that we already have, so there's no additional expenses to the county.
I've got a question, Joe. Does that include the investigators too? Do we have 2 investigators now? Or do we just have 1?
Currently, we have 1 because Detective Switzer is agreed to take, depending on how this all works out and whether I've got a body to replace them with, has agreed to take the chief deputy's position.
Okay,
So,
and then that allows 2 deputies to be hired in, is what
Yeah.
you're talking about, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Joe's motion will put us back to the same exact staffing that we've had for the last year.
As of
The
last month.
investigators are already in the budget, Joe.
What's that?
2 investigators are already in the budget.
I wasn't asking about it.
No, I asked about the investigators. Because all I saw in the budget was $60,000. That was a lot for,
Well, let's go ahead and, anybody second that motion?
no, it meets the criteria. If it, was the jailer gonna be hired too? Is that?
I don't
We
need
have a motion.
any right now.
We need a second.
Okay, I'm just trying to find out what the motion was.
The motion is,
4 people or 3?
no, the motion was to hire 2 deputies
Right.
and promote an existing deputy to chief deputy.
Okay. Okay. And that's your motion?
That's the motion.
Okay.
Wait a second. Did you second?
No, I did not second it, because I think that we need a jailer too.
No, we don't.
I'll second Joe's motion to keep the staff, the highway sheriff's department staff. I think we owe that to the public.
Absolutely.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have some discussion. Okay. One thing, I know the idea of a chief deputy makes, bothers some people, but you have 3 divisions in the sheriff's office. You have communications, you have the patrol deputies, and you have the jail. Each of those need a separate supervisor serving below the sheriff, who's overall administrator. The position is already in the budget. It doesn't add any additional funds. As it stands now, he's going to be, the sheriff's department is going to be short-handed in their staffing, which is going to add to our overtime costs until those 2 new deputies get on board. And this would actually be less, the budget would actually drop because their pay rates are going to be lower than what the existing positions are now. That's all I have then.
Any other discussion?
Well, you know, I think as we, you know, we're talking about a hiring freeze, and then my colleague jumps in and adds staff. You know, the way I was looking at this hiring freeze is that we expand it not only for new, but retiring or folks that quit.
Right.
You know, we have issues here that we're trying to get our arms around. And we're going to do an operations audit to try to do benchmarking to see, you know, how do we compare with other places. And if we, and I'm not saying we don't replace these after we go through proper due diligence, but I'm concerned that, you know, let's say the operations audit comes back and says you need to eliminate positions that you just added or something like that. And then you've got the unemployment and unwinding that. So, you know, I think that I understand public safety and I mean, I could probably be talked into one of the positions, but I think we have to keep our eye on the ball here. I mean, we're taking steps here, and we're taking these steps. I mean, look, I mean, I've seen some benchmarking of Warren County and other counties, our size, similar populations, similar, you know, lots of similarities, rural counties. And you take a county like Warren, and they have 75 employees. We have 127. And, you know, I'm looking at that saying, they have a $7 million budget, we have a $12 million budget. You know, I think there's probably, you know, some department heads that would agree with me that there's some redundancies and they see them in their departments. And it might be helpful to allow our department heads an opportunity to kind of look at the budget and come back and even make some recommendations simultaneous to the operations audit people, because they're going to talk to the department heads. And the department heads, you know, our sheriff may have some great ideas and thoughts that would be able to keep staffing levels, but at current levels, but there's other areas where he can, you know, he can save. And I think we just need to be very cautious, because we're taking steps to, you know, look, bottom line is, folks, we can't keep borrowing money on our line to operate. We can't. Ron, you did an analysis on the budget. You know, are we going to borrow more money this year or less?
Well, if you spend what's on the budget, you're going to borrow a buttload, more than what the line of credit will provide for.
Thank you. So could we continue that way? What happens when we borrow everything on the line, and then we have to go to the bank and say we now need additional cash to operate, and then we look at our farm in Viola and say, well, do we have to sell our farm in order to, you know, pay off our line and get us out of the hole? but we're still digging the hole. So, you know, I appreciate your thoughts, Joe, but as the Finance Committee Chairman and independent information I've gotten from Ron, I'm very concerned about, you know, the next 12, 18 months in Mercer County because, you know, what happens if we run out of the line and the bank says, you know, you're borrowing money here, we're not going to lend you any more money. I mean, that happens. That happens all the time. And businesses have to start selling off assets or whatever in order to, you know, meet their obligations. So I'm not trying to be gloom and doom. I'm just tapering our thoughts here and saying we've still got issues here. And trust me, we've improved a lot under Mr. McWhorter's leadership. Okay, but we were hemorrhaging. It was just an all-out hemorrhage everywhere. But we're still bleeding. We're still bleeding. And let's not forget, you know, the ongoing contract negotiations that we're going to have. And a new contract for the employees. That's going to add cost.
Joe, did you have another comment?
Mr. Chairman, as I've already said, this is public safety. This is something we've already budgeted for. It's already in the budget. It doesn't add a dime to the budget. It will actually be a reduction in the budget. I have looked into the staffing of Sheriff's Office of similar sized county, and ours is not out of line at all.
Any other comments? Let's go ahead and vote. If you could show of hands so it's easier to.
Well, what, are we voting on Joe's motion?
Yeah, we're going to vote on
Then we're going to
Joe's
come back to the hiring.
And then we're
freeze?
going to come back to the hiring freeze.
Okay.
So, all in favor for Joe's motion, which would be to replace or fill the chief deputy's position, which is vacated, and hiring 2 additional deputies, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? What did you say aye or did?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so that's 4-4. Yeah.
Motion failed.
Motion. What's that? Did you vote?
Yes, I did.
No. Yeah. Yeah, motion fails.
Wait a second, that's 4-4, wasn't it?
Yeah.
4-4 motion fails.
Yep.
Okay, all right, so. This time, motion failed. All right, so let's go to the hiring freeze. That was instituted last March, the hiring freeze then? Is that what
I
it says?
think it was February, I'm not sure.
February, March of
13.
And it was the hiring of no new employees for the replacement of departing employees
Without board approval.
without board approval.
What would be the difference between what the county circuit clerk did and the sheriff's did? Same deal, I mean, one of them quit, replaced it.
He came before the board and we approved it.
So how was the motion worded before, Jeff?
I believe it was no hiring at all unless board approval
Of new or replacement?
of new or replacement.
Okay, so we're just going to reinstitute that,
Reaffirm it.
reaffirm it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that.
We won't hire
Sheriff
somebody new.
Staley coming next month and asking us for the positions and us hearing his, you know, giving him considerations for that, right?
Exactly.
Good.
Or Bev, our treasurer wanting to fill the deputy treasurer position.
Must come to the board
Yes.
first.
Now,
You want to, okay, you want to make a motion to continue that?
Jeff, you want to make that?
Yeah, I
motion?
would make that
I'll
motion.
second it.
Okay, second, any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, moving on, item 8, public comment. Any public comment, please rise. No public comment? All right, somebody make a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, adjourn to